Hey, so I heard the girlies are making their personal curriculums this year. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Sammy, Sam Marie, Samantha Marita lot, if you will, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, quick couple things to know about me. I am 28. I am a psychiatric PA, a small business owner, fur baby mother of 3, avid reader, hobby enthusiast. I enjoy doing Legos. There's just some of the basics. I am married, and I think that's what there is to know about me, at least for right this second. Today, this is inspired by the Elizabeth Jean on TikTok, who is known for doing her personal curriculums. She makes her goals and stays true to her goals through her own personal syllabus. We are doing our personal curriculum, but make it bookish. This is my bookish curriculum for the rest of 2026. I know it's February, but I didn't hear about this until yesterday. And so I hopped on the bandwagon and said, yeah, I'm gonna make myself a syllabus, but for my books. Now, key reminder, this is supposed to be fun. If this is something you would never find fun in your life, don't do it. And it doesn't have to be that serious, right? Like, I don't have specific due dates. I do have like ish, get it done by this ish time, you know? But this would help me hit a lot of my goals for reading. So I like that I've got it all here. Now let's talk through this. This is not a personal one. This is bookish. It is personal to me, but it's bookish. So it's not going to encapsulate any other sorts of goals. And I have 4 major things we need to be hitting this year. I don't need to be, but that's my goal. Why not make it feel like school again and go back to the days of assigned reading? So mine starts off with classics. Classics is something I want to incorporate into my reading a little bit more. I have not read. Technically, I believe Donna Tartt's The Secret History is starting to become considered a modern day classic, but I only read half of that, and that was last year, and I have not finished it, and I am going to get back to it. But the last true classic that I read front to back was Anna Karenina by Leah Tolstoy, and I believe that was either in 2022 or 2023, and it's 2026. So it's time to reincorporate classics into my curriculum, into my, I don't know, daily routine, whatever. I wrote incorporate classics into your reading. And then I put 3 that I just want to start thinking about reading. I put Jane Eyre, end of April, To Kill a Mockingbird, end of August, and Rebecca, end of December. Jane Eyre is one that I just feel like I've always been interested in reading. It just calls to me on some sort of wavelength. I don't know. I just want to be a girl who's read Jane Eyre, you know? To Kill a Mockingbird, I put that on there because I do believe it's on the shorter side. When I was in high school and taking my AP English class, our teacher did something where you could pick a book amongst books. So we were not all reading the same book at the same time. To Kill a Mockingbird was an option, but it wasn't one of the ones that I chose to read at the time. So I just threw that on there because I feel like if I could have read it in high school, like I could read it now, you know, it would be like on the easier side of classics. And then Rebecca, I want to say there's a movie on this, and I want to say that I've seen that movie. I believe that was a movie that I watched and I did enjoy. Some people have said it's almost easier to comprehend the classic if you've seen the movie adaptation, and it makes it a little bit fun. It makes the imagery a little bit easier to understand. And so while I'm starting to dip my toes into these waters right now, it might be easier to do things like that. And I know, I'm not sure which album it is, Taylor Swift album is kind of inspired from this. So I just think that would be a really cool one to read. And I know it's gothic, and that just seems fun. And so definitely end of year would be giving those vibes. And then at the end of these, I wrote why this is important to me. So I wrote exploring the human condition with timeless themes while challenging and exercising my intellect and empathy. These works are classics for a reason. They stand the test of time. They have been passed on for decades and decades and generations to generations, and they still hold true in their themes, and you can see their importance in society throughout time changes and in different centuries. What a way to build your empathy and understanding than through classic literature, but also being able to understand that type of writing will hopefully just make me smarter. That's why classics are something I want to incorporate into my reading while still reading current and trending books, while still reading books that are just for fun. You know, maybe at some point I'll find some of these classics as a just for fun book. I will say, as I got deeper, like once I hit 50% of Anna Karenina, I felt like it was for fun, but I will say that first 50% was a trek. And then on the sides, I just have some quotes from different classics. So from East of Eden, it says, "And now that you don't have to be perfect, you can be good." And so I just think there's such a intimidation, fear factor, fear level with starting and picking up a classic, and I don't have to understand every single little thing that happens in it, right? I can go on Booktube, I can go on Book Talk after I've read it and listen to somebody who does have a degree in literature and English. I can watch somebody who is educated in that manner, people from the editing industry, the publishing industry, people well educated on these topics. I can go back and watch that. Like, I don't have to be the one that was perfect. Somebody already was. Let me learn from them because they have fully different experiences than I've had. They have a fully different educational background that I've had. I don't have to be perfect. It could just be a good and fun time, you know? And hopefully I'll learn something along the way and I'll get better. And then perhaps one did not want to be loved so much as to be understood. And I put that because that kind of connects into this first one and then also helps transition into that second one. But so much of the human experience is love and understanding. And you can't have one without the other. To have understanding, you have to understand people's perspectives and people from different backgrounds than yourself. So I just thought that was like a nice way to tie in like why I would want to read classics, but why I would also want to do the next thing on that list. And that is diversifying my reads. I mean this in terms of authors and in genres. So certainly as I've gotten back into reading, I wanted to have a little bit of a silly, goofy, fun time when I restarted reading because I came from this time of not reading anything but textbooks for so long. So when I graduated PA school in 2022, I was like, it is time to go to Barnes & Noble. I was reading romances and thrillers, and that was about it to start. And then, of course, as I started doing that, my algorithms started changing. I still wasn't on TikTok. I didn't have a TikTok. I was scared of TikTok and that it would make me fail PA school because I thought I would be so wrapped up in it. So I kind of got on Booktube and Bookstagram. And so I was only taking recommendations from probably 2 to 3 booktubers or book talkers. You're almost at a point like reading copy and paste just different books by different authors at some point. And so in the last year or so, especially when I downloaded Book Talk and started being exposed to a wider variety of content creators, I had my mind opened up to what else I could be reading instead of just like what these 2 or 3 people are reading. Also on top of that, even if you're just going into Barnes & Noble, it is such a privilege that I, as a white female, I could go to just about any table, like especially in the romance genre or fantasy, like I could go to any table and I know I will be represented by somebody on that table. It's not hard to find representation for me, and what a privilege that is, but we need to be doing the work to be reading about other people. We don't want to be those people who are just reading a book that you can self-insert to, because then what is the point of reading? Yes, it is wonderful to find somebody who feels like you relate to them so deeply. Again, I just wrote why that's important, essentially to further grow and build empathy and understanding, since it's so easy to find representation for myself than it is for marginalized communities. And so yeah, just expanding more diversity in my reads, authors and genres like stepping out of my comfort zone. Like I'm starting to get into more fantasy that does not have a romance subplot, doesn't have any romance in it. For my dates, I put add 5 new authors by July, which I think is very doable for me, 10 by the end of the year. I wouldn't be surprised if I do more than this, but I just gave myself some numbers so it was like a real syllabus. And then a little sticky note, I just put some authors that were important for me to get to because again, this helps transition into my next topic. But these are authors, I just put 5 because these are 5 that I could hit by July. These are 5 I could hit even sooner than that. But these are ones that are actually on my physical TBR. So Tia Williams, N.K. Jemisin, Kennedy Ryan, Tracy Dion, Charmaine Wilkerson. And there's others, but these are just some books that I really, really want to get to. I'm not going to forget that I want to do this, but it just felt right for it being a syllabus to put that. And I just think it looks cute with the sticky notes. So that transitions into my physical TBR, and it's time to offload, baby. It's time to get some numbers down. We are currently at 73. That is my thumbnail from my video that I filmed doing a physical TBR. And then I just gave myself some numbers here. Read 10 by the end of April, read 30 more by the end of August, read 30 more by the end of the year. That would get us to a 70 total, which would be crazy. But if we hit that, you know, pat on the back. And if I do that, then I'm also hitting my reading goal for the year, which would be so super duper cool. I didn't exactly write why this was important to me, but I mean, I feel like some of my TBR is from so long ago, and it's from when I was reading different authors, different types of books. I just feel like you can look at my TBR and you can see what was purchased in the last year versus what was purchased 2 years ago. Like, they're different readers. I don't think it's bad to collect books and have a lot of books. I just saw somebody talking about, like, you really can't overconsume books in a literary crisis. And it's not so much the amount, it's just, it would be nice to read some books that I've had for so long, get them off the TBR, and then I can really set the tone for who I am as a reader now. And then lastly, book journaling and writing reviews, short essays, probably for about one book a month, like maybe my favorite book of the month, and then doing the other things like, these were all my books I read, this is what I rated them. I started a book journal at the end of 2025, and I was inspired by another booktuber, Madison Kate, and she does her book journals in a favorite book of hers, so I started mine, but I didn't pick it up afterwards. Shocker. Journaling is hard to keep up with, whether it's book journaling, scrapbooking, whatever it is. I know that's not just me. I know a lot of people experience this. So I just want to really commit to that. And it doesn't have to be like this beautiful, gorgeous, insanely time-consuming thing. You can always go back and add things after. What a cool thing to be able to be like at the end of the year, see my full written review of my favorite book from January. That's interesting. That was my favorite then. Like, how does it compare to my other favorites of the months? Why did I resonate with it so much at the time? Yeah, and I just wrote, it helps to gather thoughts and will be fun to look back on, basically is what it is. And I just put like little pictures for inspiration, and then I put the Poppy War and Darkly because I'm a little bit behind. I have a back injury. I just triggered it a little bit. Woo! That's what 28 looks like, guys. But those are just two books I would go back on. My favorite book I read in January was Darkly by Marisha Pessel, I believe her name is. And then my favorite book for the next month, I think I'll just write about the Poppy War, the Dragon Republic, and the Burning God all together. I don't know that I'm gonna like really pick a favorite of it. Maybe I will, but we'll see. So that is my bookish curriculum, my personal curriculum, my syllabus for the year. I think this is such a fun, cute idea. I just did this in GoodNotes and I pulled up Whiteboard. If anybody wants to make their bookish curriculum, let me know in the comments. Let me know like what some of your headings would be. I think people put a lot of pressure on things like this. Like, this doesn't have to look like what anybody else's looks like. This just has to work for you, make sense in your brain, and be fun for you. You could make this as detailed as you want. You could make this as undetailed as you want. People are using this as a way to continue their learning and continue their growth. And so I thought this would be fun to make it a little bit bookish. Thank you so much for watching. I think I'm posting this on Friday, so happy weekend, happy reading, and thank you for watching. I hope to see you in the next one.